Please, everyone, if you have anything to share from last week, feel free to join to share, inshallah. If you could speak a little bit louder, please, we will hear you.
Whom did you mean? So is someone else speaking, or do I have the mic?
I felt like I'm hearing a voice, but I couldn't understand what it was saying.
What I remember from last time was that it was a very nice introduction, and very nice that it gave me the time to digest that how to read Quran, and that that I should it as something that reveals some things to me. So it's not really that I read it, but something is revealed to me, and that it should be something good. So this what Esra just said, that it should be something in addition to what I can see in the universe. This was something that we discussed later with Muhammad, because this was what I wasn't really sure about. So is it that I actually, so when I read Quran, I read it as a claim and then I confirm it by looking at the universe. So does it make just things easier, or is it really something in addition? But the main point for me was this reading Quran in a revealing way and expecting something good.
Mm-hmm. You mean as guidance? Do you mean that?
Yeah, so when I read Quran, I read it as a claim, and then I go and verify in the universe. And if I look at the universe, I observe something, and then I will see these things in Quran. But I couldn't really understand this. There's something in addition to what I can see in universe. So this was what we discussed. I mean, is it just that so I can observe in the universe that that there's mercy, and that this mercy, that it's not coming from the things that reflect the mercy, and that it makes sense to give charity.
Muted.
But so I can observe that no one actually is owning something in the universe.
Unmuted.
So this was just a question, but as I said, so whether there's really something in addition, or whether it just makes it easier, or whether it just needs the confirmation of the spoken word, this was actually not the main point for me. What I really liked was that it was a very nice introduction of how to read Quran and how to let it reveal to you the good news.
Assalamu alaikum, Andrea. There is nothing in addition, nothing is added to the world. It is me who is enlightened. Something is added to my understanding, or let's say something is unveiled. I become aware. I am made aware of something that I could not see before, that was already there, but I was not aware of it. So it's not about adding something out there in the world. It's about giving me an awareness, telling me, teaching me something that makes me aware of something that was all along there, but I could not see it before. I was blind to it. It's about opening my heart to it, teaching me how to see it, how to see the sign, how to read them, how to see what they are pointing to. Because if they are signs, what are they pointing to? Before that, I even was not aware that they were signs. I thought, that's it. That's all there is. So it's not about adding something, inshallah.
Thanks, that makes sense.
I really liked the point last week Sister Yamina, to stop the assumptions when we read the Quran. And when we stop our inner thinking, our inner assumptions about that verse, and allow the verse speak to us, and just be open to receive the messages and questioning the unfounded beliefs. I really like it because in that process, there is a, when we don't do that, we just read over and over, and we think we understand the same thing. But when we stop our own, when we stop ourselves, our own readings, and let the Quran speak to us, then there is a multiple layer of meanings every time you know just listen and be present. It speaks to you with some different meanings. I noticed it's not the same thing all the time. It's a different thing. It speaks to you based on uh, itself, not what you understood before. It tells you something new. That's I liked very much, because that's the Quran, coming down to us, and it's not any other word. It's the word of the Creator. So it should be speaking to us in multi-layered way. So I really like that point, inshallah. Is there anyone who would like to share, or shall we move on to the verses, new verses? It seems like we are ready to start for the second part, inshallah. Do I read the verses, Dr. Yamina?
I can read them when we are going to talk about
inshallah.
it.
Please.
Thank you. Thank you, Jazakallah khair, Zuleyha. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. والصلاة والسلام على المرسلين على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful, peace and blessings be upon you all. Welcome to Always Receiving Noor's weekly classes on Yusuf's story. May we always be open to receiving the Noor, the light of divine guidance, and may God's light and guidance enlighten our hearts and transform our lives, inshallah. So today we will continue with ayat 3 to 7, inshallah, as we talked last week. This is our second meeting. Let's remember first that we intend, inshallah, to listen to these ayats and let them guide us to some truths yet unknown to us. So those truths may have been all the time out there, but they were unknown to us. Some truths we could not have found without the guidance sent to us through these very ayat. Some truths that will enlighten our lives and fill it with the light of rahmah and hikmah, inshallah, the light of mercy and wisdom, because that's what the Quran says it is coming for the purpose of bringing us hikmah and rahmah and healing and good news, inshallah. So this listening process starts with making sense of the literal meaning of the ayat. So we read the text first. The syntax and the semantics are important as a first step. It's like as if the words and the sentences are like seeds. And so as we learn the Arabic, as we learn the grammar and the balagha of the Arabic language, and we go through tafsirs, the different how people understood that, and maybe translations if we don't work with the original, what we're doing is like a process of cultivating those seeds. That's our study of the text, textual study. That's only the first step. And it seems like we are active in that first step. But when it comes to receiving and reaping the fruits, there we are more passive, and we need to be aware of this. The meanings that are like buraq, you know, the buraq of the in the Isra, in the Ascension, that led the Prophet ﷺ, was his mount during the Ascension, Al-Isra wal-Mi'raj. Those meaning becomes like buraqs taking us to the land of Rahmah. So for this, we need to listen. And that listening is not something we do once we study, and then we need to have that space where we stop and listen. And when we are listening, we're not thinking anymore. We did all the work, and now we just listen. And we consciously listen to receive those meanings. They are going to come into me. And then I reflect on how they reflect in my internal mirrors. That's the semiotic part, if we could say. Semiotics is about the study of the signs. So they are going to reflect something in me. When I read that, they bring thoughts and feelings, and something is going to be born into me. And what I reflect, if it is anything but rahmah, then there is something in me that needs to be cleared and cleansed, like false assumptions or beliefs that I take for granted, and so I'm not even aware of. That's what Zuleyha just pointed to at the beginning. And that's what the Quran says, وَإِذَا قُرِئَ الْقُرْآنُ فَاسْتَمِعُوا لَهُ وَانصِتُوا لَعَلَّكُمْ تُرْحَمُونَ. When the Quran is read, be careful, listen carefully in silence, so that you may be graced with rahmah, with God's mercy. So it's important that I'm aware of these two steps and differentiate them, because the first step, when I read or I myself get some conclusions, those explanations of the ayat of the Quran, they are not the Quran itself. Because even if I say this is the literally meaning, either I am repeating the ayah itself, but when I'm repeating the ayah itself, every one of us is going to understand it in a different way, because it reflects in a different way in different mirrors, not because itself is different. And so the explanation is like an opening. It opens a way for me, for others to follow and get closer to the message of the Quran, but still it is not the Quran itself. The literal meaning of the Quran itself is a sign, an ayah, as the Quran itself says clearly. A sign to what? To what the intended meaning is. And that's what we pray to receive. If I am not careful, I may end up with a meaning that is not the intended meaning. I may end up with something that I myself assumed and may not be inferred to in the text itself. So that's why awareness in reading and listening to the Quran is a key factor. Because how can I know that I got the intended, I reached the intended meaning, I reached Rahmah land truly? So the conscious reader or the conscious listener, because we read and we listen also to the Quran, will question his interpretation. We don't take it for granted. and check it out against. There are rules that if you are going to read the Quran on your own, you learn the rules. And one of the rules, for instance, is to check out my interpretation against the general message of the Quran. Is it consistent with the general message of the Quran? I will also check my interpretation of one ayah with the other Quranic ayats, as well as creational ayats out there in the world. So there is no discrepancy, no inconsistency between them, between my interpretation and the general meaning, at least literal meaning. And also, as Esra reminded us, also I have a general guideline, which is a point of reference, which is this message, does it bring me good news, rahmah, healing, wisdom, guidance? And if it is like be good to the poor, then I will say, okay, I don't need the guidance of the Quran to tell me this. At least it could be, it is in the fitrah, but there are things that may have come through other revelations, other scriptures. But still, if the Quran was sent, it means it's adding something to those scriptures. And if there is nothing new, then why would I need its guidance? And usually, mashallah, subhanallah, it's always amazing. It has lots of, the perspective is always refreshing, always new. And the key, I repeat, is awareness, reading consciously. Because there is no purely objective reading of the Quran. Whatever we understand, even the very literal meaning, is always an interpretation, because it is shaped and colored by my assumption, the assumption of the reader, of the listener. Our assumption about the meanings of the worlds, our assumptions, and these assumptions are often hidden from us, because if I am aware of them, it's okay, I can question them. But when they are taken for granted and they are hidden, I don't even question them because I think they are universal. So for the conscious reader or listener, there is here plenty of space for dua and prayer. There is a need. You feel that need for being in a state in hal of dua and prayer, that Allah guides us to the intended meanings or some of the intended meanings, inshallah. So our listening and reading of the Quran itself becomes an act of ubudiyah, an act of worship, because I am aware of my limitedness and I don't claim that I understand anything. I'm just doing the work, my study of my textual study is itself a prayer, asking my compassionate Rabb to guide me and show me the way to his rahmah. Just wanted to start that again as a reminder from last session, inshallah. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وارنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. So this is a dua that I really like. It means, may Allah show us the truth. Oh Allah, show us the truth as truth and bless us with following it, and show us falsehood as falsehood and bless us with avoiding it. So I will read the original first, as it contains some clues that the translation can't always convey. And I will refer back to those clues when appropriate, inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. نحن نقص عليك أحسن القصص بما أوحينا إليك هذا القرآن وإن كنت من قبله لمن الغافلين إذ قال يوسف لأبيه يا آبت إني رأيت 11 كوكبا والشمس والقمر رأيتهم لي ساجدين قال يا بني لا تقصص رؤياك على إخوتك فيكيد لك كيدا إن الشيطان للإنسان عدو مبين وكذلك يجتبيك ربك ويعلمك من تأويل الأحاديث يتم نعمته عليك وعلى آل يعقوب كما أتمها على أبويك من قبل إبراهيم وإسحاق إن ربك عليم حكيم لقد كان في يوسف وإخوته آية للسائلين. That was the seventh one. So remember when I'm going to read the translation, it's really an interpretation because it reflects the understanding of the translator. So we narrate, it says, I'm starting from the third ayah, we narrate unto you the best, ahsana, we will come back to this ahsan, of narratives in what we reveal to you this Quran, though before you were among those who were unaware. Lo, thus spoke Joseph unto his father, O dear father, some said, O my father, behold, I did see 11 stars, planets, as well as the sun and the moon. I saw them prostrate themselves before me. I guess it's not important, but stars in Arabic is usually nujum, and kawkab is planet or celestial bodies in general. So he replied, the father replied, O my dear son, do not relate your vision to your brothers, lest they devise an evil scheme against you. Verily Satan is humans' open foe. For even thus, referring to the vision, your sustainer, your Rabb, will elect you and will impart unto you some understanding of the inner meaning of happenings, of occurrences, ahadith, ta'wil al-ahadith, and will bestow the full measure of his blessings, his ni'mah, upon you and upon the house of Jacob, even as aforetime, as before that, he bestowed it in full measure upon your forefathers Abraham and Isaac. Verily, your sustainer, your Rabb, is all-knowing, all-wise, alimun hakim. Indeed, in Joseph and his brothers, there are signs for all who inquire. And this last here is not actually all who inquire. The Arabic doesn't have a verb. It has an ism fa'il, which is all inquirers, all those who are inquirers. Because if you say someone inquires, then sometimes he doesn't. But someone who is inquirer, it gives you sa'ilin. It gives you that sense of continuity. They don't just ask from time to time. They are always inquiring, wanting to know. It's only when you have that perseverance and persist in pursuing the meaning of the ayat and the truth that it will be revealed to you. So I'll start by sharing my assignment with you first. You remember our assignment was to read ayah 3 to 7 and remain conscious of what's going on inside of us in response to what we understood from the ayat. So, Bismillah. First, I intended to leave aside, I'm telling you all this out loud, so I'm sharing with you how I do the reading. So the first thing is intention. I made niyyah to do what? Intended to leave aside as much as possible, of course, because you can't do it 100%, everything that I had previously learned about this surah. And my intention was just to listen to it here and now, there and then, as though I was hearing it for the first time. And remember that the Quran is being sent here and now. God speaks to us, to me, here and now. And as we mentioned last week, what is sent is not merely the words written on paper contained in the Mus'haf, in the Codex, and it's not merely the recited word or sound. It is hidden. We saw the ayah, fi kitabin maknoon. It is hidden, protected in those words and in their meanings. The words that we read and recite and hear, they are like vehicles to the Quran. They lead us to the Quran. They are ayat, they are signs. So each time I read or listen to the ayat of the Quran, I receive fresh meanings if I'm listening freshly, if I'm not just remembering what I understood last time. And each time, yes, they are always a guidance to Rahma, and I like to call it Rahma land. And that's how I get to realize how endless and encompassing this Rahma is, because each time I read or listen to the ayat, I understand something that induces some new thoughts, new feelings in me that make me appreciate that Rahma from a different perspective. I think that's what Zuleha was referring to at the beginning, saying this is the word of God. Because of that, I realize that this Rahma is endless. Each time I experience it from a different perspective. So today, my reflections on Ayah 3 to 7. First, I read Ayah 3 and I felt excited. I'm going to hear the best of stories, especially that it doesn't seem like it's talking about some pretty, beautiful story. It's more a story without which the Prophet ﷺ himself was unaware before he heard it. So it must be relating something very important. It has an important message that will open up worlds I am unaware of. So I felt excitement. The next ayah, number 4, it starts with a child telling his father about his vision. And it seems that this vision had a strong effect on Yusuf, because he emphasizes his seeing twice. He says, I saw 11 stars, and then he said, I saw وَرَأَيْتُهُمْ لِي سَاجِدِينَ, and I saw them prostrating to me. And there is the inni in Arabic, which you don't have to say that. That's just tools to emphasize something. He could have just said, I saw it. He says, indeed, really, I did see it. And so, okay, I think this is interesting. A vision or a dream, how serious is this? Like, this is a very important narrative story, but then it starts with a vision. And then in the next area, the 5th area, the father not only doesn't question the child, but he seems very serious and he's concerned about his son. And their interaction is definitely uncommon in my understanding. You know, when I read, especially Surah Yusuf is very descriptive. The Arabic is very descriptive, very powerful, very beautiful. So if I close my eyes and just remember the ayah, I can see almost like the father and the son talking to each other. And it's not something that I would imagine going on normally in the world, like a child coming and talking about a vision with so much certainty, and the father not questioning at all. Not only he doesn't question, but he takes him very seriously. So that felt very uncommon to me. It was as though the child has said, you know, I saw something down the road. The way they're talking about the vision sounds like it's very real to them. That's what struck my attention. It seemed, and the father understands that the vision is related to Yusuf's brothers. There is a sign right there because Yusuf sees 11 stars, and it seems that he has 11 brothers. There is also something in the Arabic when it says the star prostrate to him in the vision, which the father interprets as the 11 brothers. The parents are the sun and the moon, being followers of Yusuf or being at his service. In the Arabic, when he says رأيتهم لي ساجدين, ساجدين is sajid is اسم فاعل, is an active participle, which means prostrating, in a state of prostration. And sajidin is the plural. However, in Arabic, there is two kinds of plurals. One for conscious beings that we use for humans, and one for jamad, anything that is not human, like for things or planets or something.
Dr. Yamina,
Grammatically. Yes?
may I say something here?
Sure.
To me, it is very interesting because when he talks about in the fourth ayah, when he says that I saw a dream and the 11 stars and the sun and the moon prostrating to me, it doesn't interpret what it means. I mean, as if they are speaking the same language, or as if what Yusuf said was totally clear to his father. He understood the message and he started warning him, don't relate it to your brothers, as if yani he knows, not as if, it is very clear that he knows what it means, right? Because
and it's
as
very
an
strange to
audience,
us, right?
yeah, as an audience, we don't know what it means, but he's like, you know, he got
Like,
what it right at that point. He understands what it means.
I mean, they're talking about vision as if they something happening next to them.
Yes, I mean the verses don't even show a, you know, as an audience, I feel like what's going on here? They are speaking in another language or something. You know,
Exactly.
he totally understood.
Yeah, and exactly, you feel like what's going on here?
Yes.
Like this is not something that it's not a common picture. It's not something that happens.
Yeah, why is he not
every
going
day.
to talk about it? Yeah, why is he not going to share it with his brothers? Like, what does it mean? What is the, you know, problem here? Why is he so cautious? We don't get it.
Even in the beginning, I mean, if my child comes and tells me about a vision, I don't just start, you know, talking about it as if it's something real. I first try to understand, this is a dream, or is she imagining, or you see, it's very, very different. There is a sense that they're not living in the same reality, let's say, as I do at first. It takes me a while to get into what they are talking about, and that's what we're going to do. But I'm sharing my first impressions, how it's reflected first in me, what impressions and what feelings and thoughts it brought into me. I was telling you about the sajidin, which is a plural that is, it's called Jam' Salim, which is a regular plural used only for conscious beings, for humans. And it is used here for the planets. And normally you wouldn't use it for the planets, which is interesting because it's like as if they were people consciously prostrating. And then comes the next ayah, and the father.
Excuse me, can I say something before you go to the 6?
Sure.
Assalamu alaikum, this is Muhammad speaking.
Wa alaikum salam.
It looks like Anriya speaking. When I was reading verse number 4, I was thinking why the creator of the whole universe is speaking to me about the dream of someone who lived centuries ago. Even I cannot really confirm that this person, Joseph, had existed at all. So when you said this sajidin is used for conscious beings, I felt like I remember another portion of the Quran speaking about the angels prostrating Adam So, as a human being, I was, the angels, so in particular the universe and their representative angels prostrated before me. So this event Joseph is telling is not an extraordinary or something special to Joseph, but I also had it. And I think the father, when he says, don't tell to your brothers because your brothers will misinterpret it, they will forget that they were the whole universe and the angels prostrated before them either. And they will instead of thinking the angels into account, they will consider only materially and will be jealous about you. Okay, I was just whatever comes to my mind. I thought, thank you.
Okay, thank you for sharing, Brother Muhammad. Okay, so now this is what you got, what you felt and you understood. What I would do would be put it on hold, and you will check it out later with other, not only with the verse about the angels prostrating to Adam, but also there is something coming at the end of Surah Yusuf as well. And just keep it, because it could be some totally true, it could be partially true, it could be that it needs further interpretation. So now this is what I felt, and it is now on hold to be checked out against the rest of the area of the surahs, sorry, at least. Okay, so thank you for sharing. So the sixth ayah, as Zuleika just pointed out, the father understands immediately that vision indicates, he understood first that it referred to the brothers. He also understands that it indicates that Yusuf will be elected, like yes. Okay, so he also understands that the vision is related, indicates that Yusuf will be elected like his father and forefathers. We know from other sources that the father's name is Yaqub alayhi salam, and the grandfather, Yaqub's father, is Ishaq alayhi salam, and Ishaq's father is Ibrahim alayhi salam. So he understands that he will be a prophet as well, and he will be taught ta'wil al-ahadith, the interpretation of events. It's interesting, the word, this term ta'wil, occurs in the Quran 17 times, and 8 of this, like almost half of them, occur in Surah Yusuf alayhi salam, and at least 3 of them, of those ta'wil, are referred to ta'wil al-ahadith, usually translated as interpretation of dreams, but ahadith have not, dreams are ahadith, but ahadith are not dreams. Ahadith is anything that happens, anything that occurs, any event. That's what ahadith. Haditha is event. Hadatha, it occurred. So all happenings, and of course dreams and visions are part of it. And ta'wil is derived from the root hamza wa la, meaning returning back, and you probably heard awwal means first. So that's interesting to keep in mind. To Yusuf's father, and I am not calling him Yaqub on purpose, because I want to remain as faithful to the text as possible. If you notice, as we will read, inshallah, as we read more and more in the surah, you will see that the text is focused on Yusuf alayhi salam, and the story is his story, and all the other characters are referred not by name but as his father, his brothers, Yusuf is like at the center of the narrative. So to Yusuf's father, the vision is also an ayah, a sign that Yusuf will be elected. This is very interesting. Immediately, he recognizes it as an ayah that Yusuf will be elected, that he will be a prophet of God, and he too, like his forefathers, will be taught the interpretation of happenings. And because God is Alim and Hakim, he's all-knowing, all-wise, so he will teach him. This is also important, that knowledge and wisdom is taught to the prophets. They do not get it themselves. So immediately what comes to my mind is, what is it about Yusuf that he will be elected? I am curious now. So I started with excitement. Now I end with, I'm curious. I want to know, why will he be elected? Because, I mean, if it's telling me the story, it means it's going to tell me something about it. So I'm hooked to the story. So it's really, from the story point of view, it's a very powerful story. I'll come back to the word ruya in the translation and in some tafsirs as well. Often the term ruya is rendered as dream. In Razi, he says, ra'a fil manam. Okay, al-manam means dream in Arabic. In Arabic, a dream is called hilm or manam. Ru'ya comes from ra'a, to see. He saw, ra'a, to see, vision. It's like sight, vision, a sight. Vision. Ru'ya is a sight. So sometimes a dream can be used to mean vision. Like when I say I have a dream, I don't mean I had a dream last night when I was sleeping. I mean I have a vision. But often a dream refers to something unintelligible, some visions that are not very clear, that happen during sleep, or something related to the imagination. A vision is more often, well, as I said, because it's what we see, sight, it's something I see in my mind, and it can occur while asleep or awake. So a vision is more likely to be truthful than a dream. And the text doesn't give us any hints as to whether Yusuf alayhi salam was awake or asleep when he saw the vision. And it does not use, the original does not use dream, but vision. He says, I saw, and his father tells him, do not tell your vision to your brothers. What you saw, ru'ya, ra'a ru'ya. So
he doesn't.
sure.
It
Go
doesn't
ahead.
necessarily be a vision, right? He just says, "I saw."
Yeah, he says,
So,
I saw. Yeah, that's true. The father of Yusuf, when he says to him, do not tell about it to your brothers, he says, do not tell, لا تقص رؤياك, do not tell your ru'ya to your brothers.
yeah,
But
do not
Yusuf
tell them.
himself never says it. Yeah.
Do not tell them what you saw, right?
Yeah. So we don't know if he was asleep, if he was awake. We have no idea, and probably if the Quran gives no hints about it, it means it is not. So we don't know if he was asleep, if he was awake. We have no idea, and probably if the Quran gives no hints about it, it means it is not relevant. It means it's not going to help us understand the text better. However, we know that it is using that word and not the other, the word hilm, for instance. I will come back to that. The word dream in Arabic, hilm, the plural is ahlam. And it is used in the Quran in different contexts. So first, there is no hint as to whether Yusuf was awake or asleep. If it was, he saw a vision while awake or a dream, or we only know that whatever he saw was very vivid from the way he describes it. Sorry. When the king has a vision in Ayah 1243, he asks for its interpretation. So his people, the people around him, don't know the meaning of the king's ru'ya, and they use the term ahlam, which means dreams. It says in the ayah 1245, they answered, this is one of the most confusing of dreams, and we have no knowledge of the real meaning of dreams. So they use the word ahlam. They say, قالوا أضغاث أحلام وما نحن بتأويل الأحلام بعالمين. Ahlam is the plural of hilm. It means dreams. And normally, when if I'm asleep as a native Arabic speaker, I won't say, oh, I had a ru'ya. I will say I had a hilm. Or it depends on where you come from. If you come from where I come from, they will say I saw a manam, but both of them mean dream, and none will use ru'ya to talk about what we call dream while asleep. What they call here adghat ahlam, adghat means something confused, jumbled, like hallucination or something like that. And the same expression, adghat ahlam, is used the second time. It's used only twice in the Quran, in Surah Al-Anbiya, in reference to the message sent through Muhammad ﷺ. It's very nice how the Quran explains each other. There they said, oh, they are just confusing the dreams, but he has invented all this. He's just a poet. Who is there saying this? Who calls the Prophet ﷺ a poet and his message confused dreams? The unbelievers, right? And who calls the vision of the king in Yusuf's story confused dreams, adghat ahlam? The people who didn't know how to interpret visions. They are people who didn't know what a vision is, and so they confused it with a dream. He's telling them, the king says, I had a vision. Can you interpret my vision? He uses twice in the same ayah. They answer, oh, this is just confused dreams, and we don't know the interpretation of dreams. So
is it the interpretation of a vision, or could it be interpretation of a hadith events?
Not in the context of the king
also
speaking.
Says, I have seen, not necessarily in a dream.
No, he says ru'ya. He uses the word ru'ya, which means vision. Yes, I've seen something in a vision.
The king says,
we know that he didn't see.
Inni ara.
Yeah.
So it doesn't necessarily mean a dream.
No, it is not a dream. It is a ru'ya. He calls it ru'ya. He doesn't say it's a dream.
Assalamu alaikum. Dr. Yamina, I have a question. I was just wondering, so what is so catchy about Yusuf that his father is actually like listening to his dream as opposed to his brother? What if one of his brother would have come to his father and maybe tell him about a vision? Like, what distinguishes Yusuf amongst his brother?
Oh, okay. When we ask questions, when I ask questions about the Quran, I always ask questions that are inferred from the text. I can ask other questions, but I will say that the Quran doesn't give us here hints about, we don't know yet, at least at this point, we don't know that what would the father, how he would have reacted if it had been another brother. And it seems like when I'm asking a question like this, is it just my curiosity, or is it a question that is induced from the text? Because as we are reading the text, we are reading with the intention of listening to it, to let it guide us. So the text so far is not taking me to a, is not talking about the brothers as opposed to Yusuf. So I would say, oh, why is he listening to Yusuf but not to his brothers? I only know that he is concerned about the brothers, and he's concerned that they would be, how do you say, tempted by Satan. He's concerned
Right, understand.
about
Maybe
that.
let me rephrase my question. What I meant was, like, why is he taking Yusuf so seriously?
Do you see anything in the text that tells you why he's taking him so seriously?
I mean, he says, do not discuss this with your brothers. Mm-hmm. So how did you know that this is something, I mean, that he should not be discussing?
It means from the beginning we understand that the father understood the interpretation of the vision. We know it's a vision. We know, just because I said it's not a dream, it does not mean that it happened actually in front of him. Because how do we know? Because it's symbolic. Because he's talking about the moon and the sun prostrating to him. So it can't be something that actually happened. It is symbolic. And I'll come back to that because remember, ayats are symbols, are signs. So it's very interesting that it starts with Alif Lam Ra, and then right after it starts with a vision. A vision is very symbolic. The most symbolic thing we can think about after Alif Lam Ra. So apparently the father understood, he already interpreted the vision. He knows what it means, and he knows that it is related to the brothers, and that's why he doesn't want he knows that the 11 stars refer to the 11 brothers. Their prostrating refers to them being of service or following him. He will be a prophet. We know in the next ayah again that he will be a prophet. He will have some status that the elder brothers will be followers of the younger ones. And so he was concerned about them being jealous of his position, because if they were mature enough to understand that this is a position, a spiritual position, it's not something that is given to anyone just haphazardly. It's because he became someone who deserved to be elected. That's why he was elected. Then if they had that maturity, that spiritual maturity, then they may have been also elected, or they wouldn't be in that position. But apparently they are not, and the father knows that, and that's why he's concerned about them. If they know about the the vision, and it means he's also thinking that they may guess what it means.
Sister Yamina, it is also striking. I thank you very much for the question, sister, because we are always, we generally are very curious about how did he know, but the Quran doesn't tell us how his father knows. But the Quran actually explains why.
We will understand how they know later. Remember? Like he will tell us, and so it comes back, the how comes back to the previous question, actually. The two questions actually are related. So the previous question was about the dream and the ahadith. Yes, the king says I see, but in Arabic you can say I see when you're talking about a dream as well. However, the word used for what the king saw is ru'ya, which means vision, sight vision, not a dream. And he insists, he's persistent, he wants to know the meaning of his vision. It seems that it's also very vivid, like Yusuf's vision. The people who the king asked, they didn't know the meaning of the vision. And instead of saying just, well, we don't know, instead of being aware of their limitation, they said, oh, these are just dreams. So who is calling the vision dreams? Those who didn't know its interpretation. And the same expression is used in reference to the Prophet ﷺ's message, and people who called him poet called the Quran أضغاث أحلام, just dreams. So the unbelievers who are not aware that God can speak, can communicate with us in various ways, through inspiration, through revelation, through visions, they said, oh, this is just dreams. And the people of the king also, he refers to what he saw as vision, as ru'ya. They refer to it as ahlam, dreams, because they don't know. They're confusing a dream with a vision, a truthful vision with a confused dream. And they said this is just confused dream. Of course, it is interesting because it is confused to them. The dream, the vision itself is, yes, it is not clear in the sense that it is symbolic, but it has a meaning to those who know how to interpret them. And the interpretation of vision is part of the ta'wil al-ahadith, part of the interpretation of events, because the vision is also an event that happens in the world. So just because I don't know the interpretation of something, can I say that it is jumbled, confused stuff? No, but to the unaware who confuses the vision and dream, just because they didn't understand, as though they were the point of reference, they refer to the vision of the king as أضغاث أحلام, as confused dreams. And to the people around the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, just because they didn't understand the meaning of the Quran, just because they could not grasp that their creator, the Rabb, speaks to us in various ways, they said, oh, أضغاث أحلام, just confused dreams, he's just a poet. So why I'm talking about this? Because I saw that lots of translation put dream in brackets as though they're taking it for granted, they're assuming that what Yusuf saw is a dream or what the king saw is a dream, whereas the Quran does not even give us a hint whether they were awake or asleep when they saw it, because that's not the point, because I missed the point when I think it's a dream. The point is that it is a vision and therefore it is an ayah. The word ru'ya actually appears 7 times in the Quran, 4 times in Surah Yusuf. 2 at the beginning that we just read. It is the father refers to his sons, what his sons saw as ru'ya. And the other at the very end, ayah 100, when the vision is realized in the world. So we know, actually, everyone now knows what it referred to at the beginning, although the father knew from the beginning its interpretation. And the two others are refer to the king's vision, which Yusuf alayhi salam will interpret. We'll see that. And the 3 other ru'ya in the Quran, 2 of them refer to the Prophet alayhi salam, and one of them to Ibrahim's vision alayhi salam. So what's interesting here is that the best of stories begin with a vision. And a vision is something symbolic, and it needs interpretation. It's clear. He saw stars and the moon and the sun and the moon. I mean, it's clear that the stars and the sun and the moon do not prostrate, certainly not to him, not literally. So this is going to need interpretation, and from the beginning we are given some cues that the father understands what they mean, and we know that first they are related to the brothers, second that he will be a prophet, and he will be given the wisdom to interpret events, and within those events the visions are included, because usually it is translated as interpretation of dreams. Just a second, it doesn't say interpretation of dreams, it says interpretation of events. And a dream or a vision, both of them are events happening in the world as well. So to the father, Yusuf's vision is an ayah, and to us, to me, it is also an ayah. That's what Muhammad reminded us at the beginning. Like, why is the Quran telling me this? We don't know yet. But for the moment, we know that it is an ayah of the Quran. One ayah, ayah number 4, 5, 6, talk about Yusuf's vision.
Yamina,
So it is.
can I ask a question here?
Sure.
In that fifth verse, ayat, he says not to tell his vision to brothers. From that text, can we understand like the brothers will know how to interpret it and then will do something bad, or they will misinterpret, or can we make any comment on that, you think? Because like again, as you said, like in the beginning, a kid comes to the father and tells a dream. What does it mean to us? And then the same thing, like if a kid goes and tells his brothers a dream, I mean, why should they take it like seriously? Then he thinks probably, I mean, that they will know the meaning or they will misunderstand the meaning, because he also talks about the Satan here, says that Satan will make, you know.
It's both actually. It's open at the moment. We still don't know. It could be that they will understand the true meaning and be jealous, which is from Satan, and act on their jealousy, and therefore they will harm Yusuf alayhi salam. Or it could be that he is concerned that they will misunderstand the vision. So both of them at the moment, it could be any of them. There is no hint yet in the text itself. There is no hint whether he thinks they will understand it rightly or misunderstand it. In any case, there is one thing that is sure: whether they understand the vision correctly or not, he is concerned that they will be tempted, they will get jealous and be tempted by Satan and act on their jealousy and harm in some ways he's concerned that it will harm Yusuf alayhi salam.
I was just actually remembering that he may be concerned about the brothers as well, because he's their father and he doesn't want them to do something wrong as well. Like he is not only concerned for Yusuf, maybe he may be concerned for the brothers as well, because as a father you don't want your kids to do something wrong.
We'll keep all this, we can take notes, and then as the story will unfold, we will check them out. It's like, you know, when you're watching or listening to a story, and then is this, I don't want to use what I know from the story to answer right now, because we're reading it newly now, but could be, yes. And what was said before, it does, right now it doesn't tell us how he knows how to interpret the vision, but later we will see that Yusuf alayhi salam is taught the interpretation of events, and that includes visions, and we will see how or why, and how and why are very connected. We can talk about it another time, inshallah, when the question comes. So here, what is interesting is that and the vision of Yusuf is a Quranic, an ayah of the Quran. And it is similar to Alif Lam Ra because it is symbolic, it needs interpretation. It is not obvious what it means. I mean, at least for us, people like to comprehend, because usually when we think vision, we think dreams, and we think vision like hallucination, like stuff, just like the people of the king. Why? Because we have assumptions about what is real and what is not. For instance, it seems to us a building is more real than a vision. No? Like if I see someone next to me, I believe it. But if I see the same person in a vision, it's a vision, I say, and I just don't take it seriously. As though the more concrete and the more palpable something is, the more real. We have some classification about what real is. It doesn't seem to be so for the aware, who knows that meaning comes before matter, and that concrete things were once visions. The building was once someone's vision, and then it became a concrete building, not the other way around. So, and concrete things only have value to the extent that they are meaningful or they fulfill a meaningful purpose. So at this point, I don't want to get into this really. They are just notes to think about. At this point, what matters is that they are all signs equally, whether it's a vision or it is a physical thing. They are all signs. Even confused dreams are signs. They may be signs area that I like clarity in my life. And a clear, lucid vision is an ayah to be read and understood. That's what the Quran is telling us here. The father understands it. The king, he looks for someone to interpret it, and that's how he finds Yusuf alayhi salam to understand, to interpret the dream, his vision for him. And so a clear vision has been revealed with purpose and wisdom, created with purpose and wisdom, just like anything else. And note here that the vision here is an ayah of the Quran, and Quran is the masdar, the root form of qara'a, meaning what it means, what is read. Quran is what is read. So the ayat of the Quran are supposed to be read. Otherwise, if I don't read them, it's not Quran anymore. And read in the sense of understanding, not only repeating like a tape recorder would do, you know, not just mimicking the sounds like a tape recorder. Reading is a very important concept in the Quran. It is the first revealed word. Remember, Iqra, Angel Gabriel told the Prophet ﷺ, Iqra, read. And read what? I mean, there was no Quran as we all know it now, that time. It was the first word, there was nothing yet. And then he says, Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. Read in the name of your Rabb who has created. And it's interesting, why would Gabriel, who was sent by Allah himself, ask Muhammad ﷺ, who was illiterate, to read? Like, didn't he know that Muhammad ﷺ was illiterate? Why is he asking him to read? So maybe the reading he's referring to is not the reading I am assuming. The reading I'm assuming is the repeating of sounds. So maybe he's talking about something else. He's saying, read in the name of your Rabb. And how do we read in the name of our Rabb? This is what the Quran teaches us. We can talk about it another time. But this is what Yusuf's father is doing. He's interpreting the vision in the name of his Rabb, and he ends up with, he will teach you the interpretation of hadith, of events, because he is Alimun Hakim, he's all-knowing, all-wise. So like all ayats, Yusuf's vision is also an ayah. It needs to be read and interpreted in the name of our Rabb. And apparently the Yusuf's father immediately did so. So there is something that I don't know that he knows. And a vision is not something, some confused dreams, as we may assume. It is a real ayah, as real as anything else. And it can convey very important knowledge. Actually, in the case of the king, it was very vital knowledge. The king had a vision. If you don't know what happens, we will see later the king has a vision, and he insisted on the interpretation of his vision. And had he not taken his vision seriously, had he brushed it aside as a dream, as I could do very easily, the people of the whole area would have suffered from the consequences of drought, because that's how Yusuf a.s. interpreted that they will have 7 years of abundance. They will have to store for the other coming 7 years of drought and famine. And people would have been hungry otherwise. Can you imagine? Had he not taken his vision seriously, how many people would have suffered for 7 long years? Subhanallah. Because he pursued the ayah in the vision, because he took it seriously, he was able to help his people. Isn't that like a powerful source of wisdom? This means, at this point at least, that there are other channels of receiving wisdom and knowledge than what we think we know. Actually, think about it, there is only one single source of wisdom. Only God is Alim and Hakim. Only He is all-knowing and all-wise. So any wisdom, any knowledge we have is going to be given from Him to us. There is no other way. And now He is revealing to us that it can be given through revelation to the prophets, through inspiration, through visions. And these are always wisdom and knowledge are imparted, are given to us. But we often, why we're not aware of this, why we don't take a vision, a clear, lucid vision seriously, because we think that, I think that I will study very hard, I will think, I will sit, and then I will somehow produce, create, I don't know what, like I will get it. Even if it's out there, I will go and grasp it. Like, who was that called? Prometheus in Greek mythology. He goes and gets it from the gods. It's not so. I don't get anything. I can only receive. And if I'm aware, I will realize that what I study, thinking, all that are only modes of praying for something to be given to us. And that's why, although we study and think and reflect, and the most creative part, the juiciest part of our wisdom and knowledge is what we get when we are in a state of listening, in a state of meditation and contemplation and reflection, when we are making tafakkur and just sitting and waiting. So it's not the harder I study and work, the more wisdom I get, because wisdom is not given that way. And to whom is it given? How is it given? The rest of the story will reveal the answers to us. For the moment, let us keep in mind that a vision is not something to be taken lightly. But how do I differentiate a vision from a dream? We've seen people confusing vision and dream, and some people confusing revelation and dream even. And let's say I learned how to differentiate between a vision and a dream. How would I interpret it? All this will be clarified in the rest of the surah, inshallah. So stay with us, and thank you for joining us in this session, inshallah. Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Assalamu alaikum. Sure.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Yeah. You said that a vision is like any other being. It's as real as everything else, and I can that makes sense to me. You also said that what he saw, the king or Yusuf saw, had to be a vision because it couldn't be happening for real. It's symbolic. It has to be interpreted. That's why it has to be a vision. But to me, the events, all events that we come across, they all need to be interpreted. They all can be said. They're symbolic, such as I see an animal feeding its young, and one could say that that's also symbolic. There's a sign there. That what I see over there, it can be called a ru'ya. So I have some sort of a confusion here in terms of why something has to be a vision, just because it's symbolic and it needs to be interpreted.
Thank you. Thank you. Actually, it will help clarify. Maybe I did not emphasize it enough. Yes, you are right that a vision is an event, just like everything else that's also created. It's also an event, and the fact that it is symbolic does not make other events less symbolic. That's why I said at the beginning that a vision here is like Alif Lam Ra, and it is I feel that it is very meaningful that the surah starts with Alif Lam Ra, with 3 letters that apparently don't have a meaning that I know of. And then when the story actually starts, it starts with a vision. Because if it starts with something happening, an event, I am prone, I will incline to think that I will go and look, did it happen in history? Where was it? What time, what year? And then forget completely about it's being an ayah, it's being a sign. And subhanallah, the ayah, the surah is so, it's going to teach us here. I will tell you, this is not what we've learned yet, but I said that the word ta'wil is used 7 times in Surah Yusuf, and like mostly it's used in Surah Yusuf out of 18 or something like that. And 3 of them are ta'wil al-ahadith, and the others are related to ahadith. It's ta'wilihi or something like that. So, and this ta'wil al-ahadith we said is translated as interpretation of dreams, but it is interpretation of events, and dreams or visions are only part of events. So actually, Surah Yusuf, in my experience so far, is about the interpretation of events, all events, as you just pointed out, all events, because events that we take for granted, we think we know what they mean, we are actually usually stuck in the event itself. We are not looking at them as signs. We are not seeing as what they are pointing to. And an example in Surah Yusuf is when Yusuf alayhi salam is appointed next to the king. He's given a high position next to the king, and the king says, like, we appoint you to this position. And right after that, the other ayah says, وَكَذَلِكَ مَكَّنَّا لِيُوسُفَ فِي الْأَرْضِ. And the next ayah, Allah says, we actually established Yusuf in that position. So the one ayah is the king saying that we gave him this position. Next one is giving us the real meaning, because it looks, when I look at it, the event is the king appointing Yusuf. The next ayah, it happens a lot in Surah Yusuf. The next ayah gives us the real interpretation, because the surah is about interpretation of events, how it was taught to Yusuf. And so we will see what is about Yusuf that made him receive this knowledge and this wisdom. And if Allah is telling me this is the best of surahs, and He's telling me all this about Yusuf, it means that all of us, the listeners, the audience, all of us have the ability to receive that wisdom with which to interpret events, including visions and dreams, whatever that is. So yes, what you said is true. Everything is symbolic in the sense that everything is an ayah. It is a sign pointing to something beyond itself. But because I'm not aware of it, you see, right now I felt the rahmah of the Quran, mashallah, subhanallah. To make it easy on me, it starts with something that is obviously symbolic, like the moon and the sun and the moon and the stars prostrating. This is obviously, I can't claim that I understood it. So it's making it easy for me. It's starting from what is obviously symbolic, and then it does not mean that other events are not signs. But it's starting with the easiest, the most symbolic one. And then it will teach me how to interpret all kinds of events. Inshallah. So this is again showing the rahmah in teaching us wisdom, but in a very compassionate way, not making it hard on us, making it easy on me.
That makes a lot of sense.
So thank you for the question.
So can I say something, or are we running out of time?
Go ahead, inshallah.
Yeah, I mean, so I wrote down that sentence, vision comes before matter. So I think to me, today's session was on emphasizing on that reality of vision. So, as you said in the very end, that we usually work and we do something and we are totally into that doing world, and we think this is reality. But if you would spend a little bit more time on the vision part, then the doing part is probably much easier. So I think that's my takeaway from this week. That to really give that. So these people at that time, they lived in another world. They lived in a world where they maybe were really more aware of that reality of vision. So thanks.
Thank you.
Before we
So the assignment will be again. Oh, go ahead.
Please go ahead, Sister Yamina. Go ahead.
I was going to remind us before we move on that the assignment will be the same. I'll ask you to read to the verses from verses 7 to 18, inshallah, and with the same, read it, try to understand it, and then just listen. And as you listen, if nothing comes, ask questions like, where is the rahmah here? Where is the guidance? How is this good news? How is this healing? It's like the rahmah when Brother Zafar was asking his question, I suddenly felt, oh, this is because of rahmah. Yes, he was right. Everything is symbolic and is a sign. However, a vision is more outwardly symbolic for someone who is just waking up, still in ghafla like me. Then as I start waking up, or as the Quran is teaching this to us who are not aware of the meaning of, we can't interpret events yet. And that's why we get so stressed and so sad, and we don't know the meaning of what's happening to us. And it starts with something that is clearly symbolic, so that I'm not overwhelmed. So I felt the rahmah. So you ask, how is this good news? How is this healing? And just listen. The listening part is really, really just listen. Don't try to produce something. The production part is when you are go and read and study and and then when you start reflecting, stop any intellectual activity. Just listen. Inshallah. Yes, Suleyha.
I was going to remind everyone about the homework, so you have done this. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
So thank you very much, everyone, and inshallah for the next week, what is the plan, Sister Yamina, for the next week's? It will be Thanksgiving next week.
Oh, so we said we could cancel it and have it the other week, right?
Yes.
Because lots of people may have other engagements.
Mm-hmm. So we will announce it in our Facebook group and in our
emails,
inshallah.
Inshallah.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.